Hey, how are you?
Yo, what's going on?
Nothing. I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good. I
Good.
see you got the lighting all correct and everything in there.
I tried. I put up this little light because I was like, it's getting dark now at 5 p.m.
Mm. Well, we do what we got to do. I'm
Yeah,
over I'm in the crib as well, but I got like a little studio set up over here in the background.
it looks great.
Thank you. You look great as well. Um, Let me make sure you could hear these sound effects here. 1 second. I'm getting all these ads on my sound effects board. You hear that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, you
And then
ready to
some
start this?
protocol. Is it like we could swear on here? It's fine.
Yeah.
Making sure.
I'm sure you're not going to be on here saying all kind of C words and going crazy though.
No. I won't. Just like if something slips, I just want to make sure like I understand.
No. We
Yeah.
podding today. We podcasting. So this is a
Cool.
little bit different than just the more conventional interviews where there's a lineup of people that are waiting to get interviewed right after at a radio station. So you got like 15 minutes and a hard out. Like I want to be able to unpack, as they say.
I love that.
All right. So before we get into it, let's start with some vibes here. Let me see. There was something that I was listening to that was really pulling my attention off of this Notorious and Noble EP.
Okay.
Let's run it. All right.
Hey, vibes.
Gotta start with some vibes.
Yeah,
So let's get into it. It's your boy Friday Ricky Dread here with another interview for your head top. Before I get into it, I want to give a quick salute to the sponsors. The light just went out and behind me here, but I'll fix that in a minute. Big salute to the sponsors, Diamond Club. Deliveries all over the GTA. There we go. Deliveries, hey. I'll fix it after. Deliveries all over the GTA. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Diamond Club _Canada. All right, they got all types of goodies. They got flour, edibles, pens, all types of good stuff. And you can find them on the 7 Days of Weed website as well. Also, big salute to, if you need the blem, Steamin' Hot Grabber. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Steamin' Hot Grabber. They will handle your order. Hit them up and let them know that the We Love Hip Hop Boys sent you. They'll give you a discount, maybe a freebie, all right? But I'm really happy to have this conversation I'm about to have here. I've had the opportunity to interview other members of your family or another member of your family, okay? And I've been watching you doing your thing for a while too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not only behind the scenes, but I'm talking about in front of the scenes.
Okay.
So with no further ado, we have Omega Mighty in the building.
Work out, and I deadlifting them on the third round when I sit on
What up, Friday?
I'm good. How has your year been so far? We're getting into the latter part of the year, so I want to know how your year has been, maybe the highlight of the year.
Honestly, probably releasing this album for sure. It's been a practice for the last year, so it's wonderful when you finally get to release something and get it off.
Yeah.
But it's been a great year of like learning throughout the creation of the project, throughout doing festivals, whatnot. Like, yeah, it's been a great year, honestly. The only thing I wish I got to do a little bit more of is spend more time with family. So that's definitely another goal for 2024. But you don't know how it goes already. You have to work, you have to work, put food on the table and things. So yeah,
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do to pay these bills. And you mentioned family. For your last name is might be familiar to people who are tapped into the scene and who are also just lovers of hip hop. You're the older sister of Haviah Mighty.
Yeah.
Right? For the people who don't know, right? Even moving around and doing like stuff with her, like, you're at the Juno Awards, different things like that. Like, what's that like? Like, you're probably like, what the hell? Where the hell am I, fam?
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. It might feel like I count every blessing. Don't get me wrong, but like I grew up in music, so it's very normal to me. Very, very normal to me. So like we started when I was 4 years old, literally. And those times we were at a music school called New Conservatory of Music in Scarborough, just as kids. And what's interesting is like back in the day when you really had to hustle, this is why I'm still on my hustle to this day. Back then, we didn't really have the money, and there's 5 of us, just so you know. Now there's 5 of us. Back then there was 4 of us. So we didn't really have the money to be in all these classes. So really, we had competitions every year. We had to win the competitions in order to basically get the scholarships to stay in class. So we've always grown up in music and had to be really competitive with it. So it's normal. And then when I was probably about 18, 19, I was really sort of hitting the ground running with some of my solo stuff. And some things just kind of went left with management and different stuff at that time. But I was taking Haviah around with me a lot and getting her out. So it's so surreal that I took a hiatus, went to school, all that good stuff while she continued. And I still continued with her, but I took a little bit more of a backseat at the time. And now I'm just back, full-fledged. So it feels, I'm so happy to see everything that she's doing and to be right there beside her, but it wouldn't be any different because we've been that way since we were kids.
Yeah, and might I say it's like more of like a full circle moment now that you're here putting out your art to the forefront too,
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, I feel like for a while I have been putting out some music, but then it wasn't so, back then it was like that Piff and stuff. We didn't have the Spotifys and that. So yeah, now it is full circle because it's like almost official releases, I guess you can say. But I've been working on this craft for so long. I've been songwriting for so long. So when people think you just pop up and it's like, oh, you just have talent. Yeah, but I've still been honing my craft for all these years. And Haviah and I have even created so many things that go unreleased just as a way of development. You know what I mean? So I think that people don't get to see, but it happens. Yeah.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope. And before we go back, tell me a little bit about Notorious and Noble and like why you picked that title.
Yeah, so Notorious and Noble really is a reflection of my identity. It's an album really about identity and me coming into myself and a lot of self-discovery. I took a trip last year with my husband and his parents, and I brought my parents. We went to West Africa. So my best friend was getting married. We went to Lagos, and then we went to Ghana. And honestly, like, just game changer. If you're Caribbean, right? And I have struggled with this my entire life, where I felt like I just don't belong in this world. Like, I always feel like I'm on a different planet. Like, we don't exist around here. So that's how I feel. Like, you're born in Canada, you're raised in Canada, but then you're raised in this Caribbean household, and for me, a Rasta household, which is even different. And then it's like you're just learning 2 sets of different principles. So when you're going to school, you're feeling like, how do I navigate this? And then when you go home, if make you say something that happened at school that doesn't make sense at home, and you're gonna get in trouble for it too. So I always like living this double life. I always. So as I'm getting older now, and when I first started in music, it was like, you can't have dreads. Like, that's not mainstream. You need to wear wigs. You need to do this. You need to do that. So there's always been this sort of loss of identity. But what I realized is that when I went back to Africa, or I should say, back to Africa, because those are our roots.
That's coming home.
That loss of identity it's generational. It stems from there. So I understand now why I don't feel like a true Canadian, because in a sense, as much as we have our papers and all of that, this is not our homeland. And so that's what Notorious and Noble is all about. So it's really like reminding us of who we are as Black kings and queens. But there's that notorious aspect that we always get. Like, I always get told, oh, yeah, I thought you were so mean before I met you, like, or before I really got to know you, stuff like that. So I get about that sometimes just for the way that I look. But I'm a sweetheart, in there somewhere. But in somewhere, don't play with me at the same time. But you know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of where the album name came from, because I really wanted to showcase the dichotomy of how I'm living inside. But I think, like, as I started on my TikTok, I realized so many people feel the same way. We have 2 sets of principles, and even just as Black people, no matter where you come from, it's like you have to do the code switching from time to time. You have to kind of live a double life to even survive. So that's kind of what this album represents for me.
And that's dope. And I can see it also now that you explain it, the way that you explain it through the imagery and the artwork and stuff like that, with the, the royalty through the artwork. Yeah,
the show.
that's dope.
Yeah. I
And
wanted to
and
keep
what?
it modern, but I wanted to like, give that sense of royal blackness,
Yeah, yeah, I see it now. And even one thing you mentioned also in your answer, TikTok, right? You're pretty. I think I just me going on TikTok here and there because I'm not really a TikTok surfer. I'll
Yeah.
post and then just go on and do my own thing and maybe go back and check my own shit. Right? But I feel like I've seen you pop up multiple times when I open the app.
You know what? I did take a little bit of a hiatus from TikTok too, because there was a time where I was like, okay, this is really overwhelming. But I'm kind of back to it now. Like, obviously, as artists, we have to continue to put ourselves out there. We have to continue to promote what it is that we're doing. Even you doing your podcast, you have to promote your things, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'm trying to be more regular on the platform. Obviously, between creating music and all the other things that you're doing in your life, sometimes it's hard to keep up, but we have to use it. The new platforms that are here that are really focusing on the music aspect, I think it's important for us to use,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And can we talk a bit about some of your work that you've done behind the scenes, like
Okay.
you're a choreographer.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you see my set, you're going to see that obviously like dance is something that I do a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I started in music. Piano is actually a classically trained in piano, then started with vocal, and then started with dance. My mom said, what did she say? She said, I would take her high heels and I would mark up the floor and just make rhythm. So that's what she said. So she put me in tap dance. That's the first genre of dance I ever started with. And to this day, I love it. I feel like it's a dying art, but yeah, I really love it. So rhythm is my thing. So yeah, when it comes to the movement, there is some stuff that I do. So I choreographed for the Junos last year for the 50th hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
the year prior with BB No Money. And obviously my sister Haviah, I choreographed for the A.W.O.L. I do some work with them. I did for the Grey Cup and for their tour. So yeah, I do some stuff. And then I got a choreographer of my own because sometimes I like to bounce my own ideas off of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I've always been a really hands-on girl. So even when you look at my cover album, my photographer shot it. I did the graphics for it. I built my
Oh,
web. Yeah, so I'm just that kind of person. So like I like to get nitty-gritty with stuff. When you see my final sets, it's like so much of that is me. And listen, I'm learning to definitely, give up some things and delegate some things. I love that. But there's something to be said about when you're in the trenches with it and it finally comes to be, like, that's the part of it that I love. So being behind the scenes as well is always near and dear to me, if that makes sense,
well, it makes a lot of sense. As somebody who I'm filming this right now, I'm going to be doing the post edits on the audio and the video. I get it.
Get it. Totally. Yeah.
I do the thumbnails too. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So you know what it's like. I mean, that's what it's like to
Yeah.
be independent too, right? So
No, definitely, definitely. And you mentioned even with being self-taught, right? You're a makeup artist as well,
yeah.
but it's something that you wanted to get into from trying to match a Sierra look.
Wow, you really do your research. I love that.
My thing, a little something.
Yeah, yeah. What video was it? I think it was her and Young Jeezy. I saw her face in this video and I was like, I don't know how she looks this perfect, but I need to figure it out. I just remember seeing dimension in her face and I was like, me, I have to learn this. So what happened was when I started out in music, those times whenever I would like try to find a makeup artist, like people did not understand black skin. Like this is
Yeah.
dating back 12, maybe even more than 14, 15 years. So I was like, I know, I have to go figure this out. So then I was like, okay, I have to teach myself because nobody seems to understand. Or organizations and all the makeup companies were just starting to learn that, they need to actually carry like darker foundations and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
I started practicing on myself and I started getting decent, And then people started asking me to do it for them. So that's how I kind of fell into it. And that was sort of the same time that I was taking a hiatus from music. So it all kind of just rolled into one. And then, yeah, we still run the business. Like I obviously have a team of artists now that we contract. But we specialize, again, this is all just a part of who I am identity-wise, because we specialize in makeup and hair bridal solutions for Black women and people of color. This is an area of the market that is missing, and so that's the mission.
Yeah, well, definitely, it's something that needs to, like, we need experts on, because as somebody who creates content and also in, like, I do color correction and different things like that, right? Like, I'm sure that there's been issues when it comes to the reproduction, whether it's from a still photo or from a video, where you're like, that's not how we look.
Why do I look gray? Why do I look?
Yeah.
I'm very particular about that. Like, you know, I love my Black skin, and also what I would like is I want to look more warm. I want to look more like the sun kissed me. I don't want to take away the beautiful attributes of my skin. So when I am working with people in post-production, like, it's very important that they understand that from a color perspective. I want to look like me, like how I look in real life, maybe look a bit better, but you know, that we want to preserve the color and the beautiful attributes of us as Black people. And, you know, how many times have I been on set where myself or one of my artists has worked with somebody that's like almost in tears because they've never had somebody to understand their skin. That's ridiculous in 23. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's real talk right there. And let's go back a little bit, right? Like, you know, from the conversation I had with your sister years ago from our first interview, I would imagine that y'all's story is somewhat the same. Like, you started in Toronto, right? You mentioned going to school in Scarborough, but then y'all moved to Brampton eventually.
Yes. We moved to Brampton, and I was like, what the hell is this place?
Yeah, tell me about that for you.
Yeah, like, I think I was about 11, because we're like 2 years apart. So then I was like, okay, there's just mud. I remember having to walk to school, my shoes them dirty. Like, it was crazy, you know? It was crazy, but eventually it's like that would have been middle school. And then I went to high school, and it's interesting because at that time, again, everything was developing, which meant that my high school was brand new. So it was nice. Everything was brand new, but all the kids were coming from Jane and Finch. So I went to Fletcher's. We got a bad rap. That's the school. Keisha Chante went there. Tory Lanez went there. Like, we just got a really bad rap at Fletcher's. Needless to say, so much talent has come out of there, but, you know, we had a tough time. I think that first like year when we first opened, and like, you know, a lot of people were migrating to Brampton at the time from all over, and a lot from Toronto. So, you know, needless to say, I thought it was just me. I came a few years earlier, but the whole influx was coming to Brampton later on because the development was there. And, you know, I guess from a perspective of at the time, I couldn't understand because I was a kid, but, you know, our parents, as they were looking to like make purchases in homes, like that was the market that they could get into from a price perspective at the time. Everybody was moving over there, and it slowly started to develop, and it became a thing. But at first I was much like, I don't understand this move. I don't understand where we are. I see cows on the way to get to like our house. It's very confusing, but I'm grateful for the experiences there. Yeah.
That's crazy that you describe it like that now, because it's so much more built up. There's so much, everything's built over basically. But you did mention a couple of people there, Keisha Chante, and Mr. Tory Lanez. Did you go to school at the same time as them? Yes. Like in the same school?
Big salute to the sponsors, Diamond Club, with delivery all over the GTA and now all across Canada. They got the best selection of flour, edibles, and pens, and all types of goodies that you need. You can find them on their Instagram page, DiamondClub_Canada, or you can find them on the 7 Days of Weed app, as well as the Leafy Things app. Let them know that you heard about them through the We Love Hip Hop Network, and they may give you a discount. Big salute to Diamond Club. Cheer!
Literally, yeah.
Okay, so like, can I get a little bit of like what they were like in high school? Like, this is so wild that they all of y'all are going to the same school. Like, that school sounded like more of a talent school than just like a regular school.
Listen, Fletcher's wasn't named an art school, but it absolutely should have been. Like, the amount of talent in that school, I'm telling you. And if you came to we shut shit down. I'm just telling you. So no disrespect to Mayfield. I know the people that whoever see this, anybody that's in Brampton, I know you guys are gonna have stuff to say, but Fletcher's is it. Keisha Chante, we weren't close. She was a year older than me, but she had, there was one music department, So, you know, I would always see her and run into her. She was pleasant whenever I would run into her, but we weren't close. He ended up coming from another school. I can't remember what year that was. And Tory was I think he might be maybe 2 years behind me. So, Tory was always rapping in the halls. What he came to do is what he was always doing. He always had a big mouth and he was always talented. So always. But he was always friendly too. Like he's that guy. So shout out to Tory.
So he was already like in the hallways rapping and going crazy.
Yeah, he was a loudmouth, I'm telling you. Like, and he had the confidence. Like, I'm pretty sure I was 2 years ahead of him. He would always be talking to the older girls, always flexing like that. Like, that's just Tory. So that's his energy, and like he hasn't really changed.
Wow, that's wild. That's wild. And there's a few things even with your family background, right? You have a Jamaican dad, Rasta man, right?
Yes. Yep.
Asian mom. Right. Actually, my mom's from Barbados too. Rest her soul.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Shout out to your mom.
Salute to my mom and salute to the Bajans. You know what I'm saying? But like with having that dynamic in the house, right? The Rasta definitely rubbed off on you, right?
Like, okay, everybody always asks me this, and they always can't believe that I am even mixed with another island. It's true, I am. And it's also true that maybe the Rasta rubbed off on me more. But here's the truth. My mom, she was born in England, although she's Asian, she was born in England and she grew up in Canada from she was quite young. So the Bayesian influence is not as heavy in my house, to be honest. My dad came to Canada when he was maybe, I think, 16. So he was very fresh and it just never left. Like you'll meet him and it never left. So that's the accent. That's everything culturally that sort of you really hear in the house. And I think my mom being with him for so long, she just adopted all of it as well. So
yeah. Was she Rasta too? I never got to ask your sister that.
Like, here's what I would say. Being a Rasta, and this is why I don't claim necessarily that I'm a Rasta. I am in a sense, but not in a sense. There are certain practices and liberties that you should absolutely be abiding by, I guess, to call yourself a Rasta. I feel like, in any religious practice or spirituality, like there's, people can pick and choose. But there's certain things. So I don't think my mom would classify herself as a Rasta. So we always grew up knowing that mom and dad are a little bit different in that way. So, like we all believe sort of the same things, but like where Rastas might be like, oh, women should be natural and they shouldn't shave. My mom would be like, she's shutting that shit down immediately. And, and as we have 4 girls before my brother came in the picture, we're all not following that. So there's just certain practices in it, but it depends. My dad's from country, so he's like really from the hills. So there's some Rastas you meet that won't necessarily adopt those practices, but my dad is very strict in that way. Like we did not eat meat growing up at all.
That's what I was going to ask.
Like, no fish, no nothing. So when people, like, honestly, I haven't experienced that in my life. Like it's, very serious.
So do you eat meat now?
No.
Like, no. Wow.
No,
so you just never even took it on.
Never eaten meat. I don't think my body would consume. Like I don't, because what I came to know, even with my dad, one of the reasons I think, because he definitely grew up eating meat, but made the decision to become Rasta.
Yeah.
I know he said it never sat well with him anyway. And he has a very severe like dairy allergy. So some of the dairy allergy definitely rub off on me. And I don't know. I don't really have an interest for it. And I don't know. I think my body is just very used to not having it. So I'm really okay with it. And you know what? As a teenager, I worked at McDonald's, all kinds of things. I could have anything I want. And I never did. I don't know. I never did.
Wow. Because
it's kind of weird, right?
no, I can, because I can relate. Like I grew my crown for like almost 8 years. You know what I mean? From like my late teenage times all the way into my 20s. Wasn't eating meat, but I ate fish though. You know what I mean? I couldn't.
Yeah, a lot of Rastas do.
Yeah. But there's a lot of judgment and different things that comes in with being Rasta. So it's kind of heavy. You know what I mean?
Very heavy. Most of the time, I always say I don't really have a lot of conversations about religion and politics. So a lot of times people want to ask me like very specifics about Rastafarianism. I'm like, honestly, I'm not even the person. Like there's certain things that I follow from the way that I was born, like brought up, raised. and that I believe in. But there are, I think, practices of every creed, whatever you want to call it, that I won't necessarily adhere to. And so, yeah, I don't get too deep into it, but at the core of it all, it really is about obviously unifying us as a people and as a nation. And that's something, Black power, that I will never be ashamed to say that, I adopt as a part of my livity. And so if that's at the core, what Rastafarianism is, then yeah, me a Rasta girl.
Yeah. Well, they did call you Dready back in the days when you were very popular in the dancehall scene.
Lord, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, they still call me Dready now. Anybody who knows me from that era, I can't leave that name. So you'll still see it even in my Instagram profile. And
you say it in your music too. You call yourself Dready in your music. I heard it a couple of times in the new project.
Definitely, yeah. That will be my forever name. Yeah, man, that era. I mean, if you were around in that era, right? Like you were here in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So that era, it definitely heavily impacts my music now because. Sorry, I'm not butting it down with you too.
That's cool.
I'm doing this cleansing thing right now. I'm trying to do no smoke, no alcohol. Let's see how long I last. But what may I listen now? Yeah, that era. That era. So I must have been about 13, 14. I'm discovering Vibes Cartel. At school, what we're doing is we're getting together after school. I don't know, we're going to the Chinaman shop, we're getting the Pasta DVDs, we're learning all the dances. You see TikTok now? That's what we were doing back then with literally DVDs. So yeah, then we would go to the party. We all had to make sure we had our fake IDs because we had to go big people party even though we weren't old enough, obviously. And then, yeah, we have to bust all the new dances then. That's why to me, it's really full circle. When I see TikTok with all the challenges, I'm like, yo, this used to be us, but in the streets, literally.
Yeah.
Our own crews, and we would battle against each other in our own crews. And yeah, man, it was just such a vibe. I'm a little sad that we lost that era, but I feel like there's something about it that I definitely want to bring back with music. And I know there's, some key people in the city that are trying to bring that vibe back through dance as well. And so I'm definitely collaborating with them, like my choreographer, Juno Abrams, who does great work with me in the dancehall scene because, not because Vibes is locked up. That era, I just won't let it die. I don't know. I love it.
What about those music videos from those times? Because they used a lot of people from Toronto and there was a lot of people dancing in those music videos. A lot of people didn't know low key. Those dancers you're seeing in a lot of your favorite rappers' music videos or dancehall artists are from here.
Facts. And that's still the case. You know what I mean? It's just that they don't get a lot of the shine and a lot of dancers haven't necessarily figured out how to be mega influencers yet. So people don't know of them. But at the same time, think about it. When Rihanna comes back to do work with Drake, where do they pull up and who do they want? They want all the Toronto dancers. You know what I mean? So it's still that vibe. A lot of the Jamaican artists still come here and shoot. The Charlie Blacks, even I think Sean Paul did something recently here. Yeah, they all still come here to shoot. And also Canada is probably a lot cheaper than places in the States. So yeah.
Yeah, and we have a more authentic Jamaican influence because a lot more people have come straight from Jamaica to Canada than a lot of American places. There's a lot of American places where there's no West Indian influence at all.
That's so true. And even when I think about, because this is always a topic of conversation too about what's authentic and what's not authentic, and that we're born and raised in Canada, so we're not real Jamaicans or real whatever. Not really subscribing to that totally, but if you take the time to sort of learn your culture, and there's certain things that will be embedded in you as well. Some of the dancers here, they might be born and raised, but I'm telling you, some of the baddest dancers out. So yeah, we just have the vibe here. That's just what it is. And so you have to come to Toronto. There's a reason that all the Jamaicans settle here and they're all on Eglinton. It's not really by fluke,
Yeah. And even speaking of Jamaican, with your album or with you call this an EP, right?
Yeah.
So with the EP, let me just make sure with the EP, Notorious and Noble, right? I'm there listening to it and I'm hearing I'm hearing dance hall, but I feel like it's more than that. Can you explain to me a little bit of like what you would call the style?
Yeah, my style, I call it R&B dance halls. It's true fusion.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up 90s R&B. Like I'm that girl. I'm a Brandy, like Monica type girl. I love those songs. And sonically, like I resonate with, R&B sort of like vocals and those runs.
Yeah.
But I think what is really different about me from a lot of those girls is that I have a very large rhythmic aspect to me. So sometimes the way that I hear music, sometimes it's like more like if a note is just running on in R&B, like I would more chop it up and give it a rhythm and a syncopation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with just like my training in dance and whatnot and my love of dance hall, like it often just falls in that type of rhythm and syncopation. So that's what you're hearing. And so it's different. It's not going to be your fresh yard music because that's not my experience. Like I literally grew up in Toronto, which is a melting pot. And even myself, like I am even a mix of two islands. So
yeah,
it's a fresh take. It's a different flavor, but it's definitely my own unique sound. And it's just something that I love. And, for a long time, I wasn't comfortable actually releasing my music that way because I was like, nobody not gonna understand this. Like, and that's truly how I felt. But also I knew it to be true because I had done I remember distinctively doing an audition where I sang Jock Here's Longing for My Baby to Love Me More. And they were like, what the is she saying? That's where they were at. And I was like that was the time that I was like, oh, so and this is, like I said, this is going back dating 14, 15 years. Like I was ahead of my time, but the world wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't confident. So yeah, full circle now, but there's so many demos that I have back there where I'm, through my proper English and back into my patois, but like I would have never released it because I was like, nobody's going to get it. Like the Jamaicans are going to be like, you're fake as and then the Canadians are going to be like, what the fuck is this? And then I was just like, well, I can't really do it. But I finally learned to just be myself. Like, who cares?
Yeah, no, and rightfully so, because what's coming out is dope.
Thank you.
And you answered a few questions also with that, what you were answering, because I know when it comes to like back in Jamaica, they'll probably be pushing back like a little bit, like, you're not from Jamaica. How could you be doing dance hall and different things like that? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, nah, man, like just do you.
Yeah, man. Like honestly, if that's the thing, it's not necessarily about where you are in the world, right? Like it just so happened I wasn't in Jamaica because my dad migrated here. That doesn't not make me any less Jamaican necessarily, right? And to be honest, like I have to be grateful for the experiences that I have, and the opportunities that I have being in Canada. So like, and it just is what it is. But of course, I always have more to learn about my culture and my heritage in so many ways, right? Even as Caribbeans, we said that we need to go back to motherland and learn from where things started. So yeah, it's always a journey and I'm down to learn more. And I want to collaborate even with, other fresh Jamaican artists, to add even more authenticity to the music. But the truth is, like us as second and third generation Caribbean people, like we are authentic in the same breath. We just sound a little different because, we do have the colonized language sort of, that's our primary. And that's the way that we were raised. And our parents, even though they'll be twanging in the house, they're not going to encourage us to speak patois in a country where that's not the language. You know what I mean?
They
like
want you to get a job.
You know what I'm saying? That would never be the thing. And so we have to be like, people can't really understand until they come to these countries how much you have to literally code switch. It's not a joke. Like it's really not a joke. Like you think I can go to my corporate job and be twanging? Like, no, it's not gonna work, right? Even down to my hairstyles, I'm gonna have to answer questions about my hairstyles, which is so annoying for me, right? But even I'm gonna have to do that just because, like, wow, I haven't seen that before. Is that your real hair? And I get that question still this day a lot. Like, Bob Marley is dead and gone. Okay, I'm still getting the question. It's crazy.
That's wild.
Wild.
Oh man, listen, Omega, You have such an interesting story, and I feel that like people are going to be able to understand even more when they listen to the music about your whole picture. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of picture, right? Like, what do you see as somebody who's multifaceted, right? Because you don't only do music. You know, you got the makeup, choreography. Like you're an artist. What do you see as like the big picture? And I'm talking about like when you're sitting on like 100 mil.
Yeah.
Right? What was the paths to get there? Was it all music that got you there? Or did you
Definitely not
branch off into a movie somewhere? Like, walk on. Like, what's the path?
Yeah. I mean, just judging by my past already, like it's obviously not only music. And I think that any artist has to be well-rounded and multifaceted to some degree to be able to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one, first and foremost. Of course, music is like, it's so near and dear to me, but I am how do I say it? Like I am that triple threat. Like I don't have music without dance. Like, so those two things already have to go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. What I think, you know, for me, like, I know from a very like broad sense, I see like an overall production company and I can continue to do all of the things. But really it's sort of self-funded, and yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like, music will never not be the thing, but I think like there's no reason to limit yourself as a musician and not take on opportunities in movies and film and anything else. And honestly, like getting your music in film, and if that translates into acting, I mean, it's something actually that I did. I used to have an agent when I was really young, and I used to do commercials, and it just was really hard to keep up with. But it like the entertainment industry, like it's my hub. So yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it. And just to add on quick fast, I see you having, and I'm just, you know, going through my crystal ball right here, having like your own multimedia company, like a female Tyler Perry type thing.
You see, I see that you see that for me, and I see that for me. And that's why this interview had to be, you know, because now we got to manifest from what we just said here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's out there. If it's on the internet now, you know what's going to happen.
Facts. Yeah, I love that.
Listen, Omega, thank you for having this conversation here with me. What do you got? Sorry?
No, I'm saying it's a pleasure.
No. It was a pleasure for me. What do you got coming down the pipeline? Like, you know, now that you have the EP out, like you got a few more songs in the vault, like an album on the way. Like, what's coming up next? So
I'm definitely back in writing mode. I never really completely left, but I just had to like quickly put it on hold while I wrapped up the album. So definitely back in writing mode, working on a few collaborations I can't really name just yet, but yeah, back in writing mode for those collabs, and also just working on future project for sure. But we're at the beginning stages, so there isn't too much to tell on it yet, but it's just to continue to push the sound, push the narrative, and allow other people like me, whether, you know, you are like within my culture or even a separate culture, but, you know, anyone that lives in two different worlds, to just understand like that is normal. That's okay. And you can merge the thing. Like you can absolutely merge the thing. Yeah. No, that's dope. And I'm looking forward to everything that you got coming in the future. Yeah, man. Omega Mighty in the building. Before I get out of here, quick salute to the sponsors once again. Salute to Diamond Club. Kept me toasty through this interview right here. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Diamond Club _Canada, as well as Steamin' Hot Grabber. They got that hot grabber. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Steamin' Hot Grabber. Omega Mighty in the building.
We love hip hop.